Greetings and welcome back to the Hot Action Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kerr, and this is Week 15 of the NFL regular season. We're reviewing what happened last week in Week 14, and then we're going to go ahead and predict what's going to happen next week. It's not been going super great for me. Last week was okay. We went 8-7 in the Pick'em contest. Unfortunately, we went 2-3. We went 2-3 in the best bets section, and my lock of the week failed to hit. So, when something goes right, inevitably other things go wrong. That's just the way this year is going for me. 10 games behind 500, not winning anything this year, but we have pride. We're going to try to finish out the year strong, even if the early returns have been suboptimal. This is where we learn things about ourselves. This is where the bad at gambling men are separated from the bad at gambling boys. All right? We're going to finish up the year. We're going to maintain our dignity. And we are going to get into the review of what happened last week. All right. So last week we started with Pittsburgh and New England. New England was on the road at Pittsburgh. They were getting 5.5 points, and Pittsburgh would lay an egg. Everyone was expecting this game to be a very low-scoring affair. They hit the over in the first half. What else happened? Oh, yeah, of course, New England scored 21 points in the first half and didn't score in the second half and still managed to win the game outright. It was incredible stuff. Looking at the header image, we were all reminded of this gentleman who was very upset with his Pittsburgh Steelers, and I don't know, maybe hopefully they can round into shape for the rest of the year, and maybe in a battle of gentlemen whose jobs might have been on the line, Tomlin and Bill Belichick, they both put up an absolute masterclass of nonsense with this game. Very upset. I tweeted that before the game that we were doing a ladder of unders so we could cheer for bad play. And of course, all of my unders were destroyed by halftime. I was very upset. Very, very upset. But I guess that's what happens when you start with the lowest under in ages. What was I thinking? All right. Next game, we started Sunday morning with New Orleans at Carolina. Of course, New Orleans smokes Carolina, takes care of business in the Dome. 5.5 points was not enough. Simple math. Now, here's a game that was somewhat difficult to watch. Baltimore and the Rams. The Rams showed up looking more scrappy than I expected. They actually took it to overtime when I knew, of course, you can only win by 6 in overtime. Therefore, my bet had lost. Baltimore does win by 6. Doesn't cover, though. Not enough. I feel like we haven't been giving this Rams team enough respect in a lot of these lines. But that's just a vibe. I can't back that up with any sort of analysis. But yeah, Baltimore, takes the lead in the AFC, and they're in the driver's seat. Hopefully for the rest of the year. Now we've got Indianapolis at Cincinnati, the Midwest battle. I took Cincinnati, the home team's getting points, and they went and put on an offensive clinic. They smoked Indy. Then we had Jacksonville at Cleveland. Our guy, Joe Flacco, was just throwing absolute bombs. It's like when you let Joe Flacco play in the AFC North, he's going to do wild stuff. He's going to draw some DPIs. He's going to throw 30, 40-yard bombs downfield. As a guy who, he's not a Baltimore Ravens fan, but has a soft spot in his heart for the Baltimore Ravens, it is great to see Flacco back. I don't really like the Cleveland Browns. That being said, I really don't like Deshaun Watson, so it's funny to see anyone who replaces him, succeeding in any type of way. All right. I think that's more than enough on that one. That was a win for your boy. We took Detroit minus 3.5, and Chicago, just spanks them. Kind of mind-boggling result for me. I thought Detroit was, trying to keep up with the leaders in this NFC. Apparently not. They've been looking pretty bad since Thanksgiving. Moving on. Got Tampa Bay plus 2.5 versus Atlanta. Tampa wins outright. Yeah, I do not like this Atlanta team. They actually kind of looked more impressive on offense than they usually do today, or on Sunday, but it wasn't enough. Tampa wins. We cover. That's a win. Then we took Houston minus 6.5, and the Jets, they managed to hurt Stroud. I think they gave him a concussion. They win the game, extremely comfortably by 24 points. The Jets, I don't know if they can make the playoffs without a lot of help, but they're still alive. I think this is pretty wild story here. Hard to believe. Then of course we had Seattle against San Francisco. I cowardly took San Francisco minus 10.5. San Francisco would cover 10.5. It would take them basically the whole game to separate that wide of a margin, because Seattle was still they were trailing going into halftime, but it was only by I think 3 or 4 points if I remember correctly. But yeah, eventually San Francisco or Seattle would run out of gas and San Francisco would break away. But last week I was talking about how dastardly Dre Greenlaw was throwing suplexes on Eagles players on the sidelines. This week it would be Fred Warner. He would throw his own suplex on DK Metcalf on some sort of strange hook and ladder play, if I remember correctly. I believe that was all the same play. But yeah, Warner comes out there and, takes DK by the hips when he doesn't have the ball and flips him. Diamador Lenore and DK would get kicked out of the game for the ensuing ruckus. Yeah, I can't say that this helped my anti-49ers bias. The more I see of them, the more I want them to fail. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't like many of the teams that might stop them from succeeding, so I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to think anymore. I'm just going to move on. That's more than enough thinking about the San Francisco 49ers. Okay, now we have Minnesota at Vegas. One of the funniest results of the year, especially considering I've been saying all year, if you only score 3 points in the NFL, you're not going to win many games, or you're not going to win the game. Minnesota disproved that by scoring 3 points and beating Vegas. I'm not sure, but I think it's the only time that's happened. But it certainly, it was the only time a game had gone into halftime at 0-0. The most beautiful part about this is that Minnesota covered with this 3-point victory, and I was on the right side of it. So that makes me very happy. Okay, moving on. Buffalo versus Kansas City. This game would largely be decided by a very controversial call or a controversial play where Kadarius Toney would line up offside. Kansas City would execute a very cool passing and lateral throwing play where I believe it was Travis Kelce would catch the ball and lateral it back to Kadarius Toney, who had already lined up offside, who would run it in for a touchdown, and that play would be called back, and Buffalo would win 20-17 instead of being down 24-20 at the end of the game there. So yeah, there was a lot of boo-hooing by the Kansas City Chiefs players, coaching staff, fans. But sometimes you get unlucky and the refs make the wrong call. It doesn't appear to me to be the wrong call, but that's the narrative some people are spinning. That being said, it's very telling to me that Chiefs fans are this upset over this call because everything has gone their way for the last 4 years, like 5 years. The fact that this is the most difficult to accept call that's gone against them in the last few years really shows you what kind of rarefied air they're living in these days. That's all I need to say on that. And then we have Denver beating the Chargers, getting points in LA. That stadium, the handicappers are still giving a advantage to the home team. When it's the Chargers, I don't really believe that exists, especially against teams with any level of popularity. So Denver came in there. I believe there are actually more Denver fans than Chargers fans. Denver's playing better, and unfortunately, El Justin Herberto aggravates another finger. I believe he has a fractured finger bone in his throwing hand, so he's going to be shut down for the rest of the season. Denver comes within one game of Kansas City in the division, which is crazy to me. And the Chargers are, falling apart completely. This is an absolutely terrible season considering their aspirations at the beginning. Then we had Sunday Night Football, Philadelphia at Dallas. We took Dallas minus 3.5, and Dallas wins this game quite comfortably, 13-33. There's something looked off about Philadelphia. I mean, unfortunately, they were unlucky with regards to turnovers in this game. They would, they gave up 2 fumbles on decent chunky passing plays, if I remember correctly. I believe Jalen Hurts gave up the ball on his own at one point. And then also Dallas would hit a 60-yard and a 59-yard field goal during the game. Like, Dallas couldn't really do anything wrong. It was, an unfortunate day for Birds Nation. That being said, it'll be an interesting run down the last few weeks of the year, last few weeks of the season between this Dallas and Philly, for the division, because I believe Philadelphia's final few games are much easier than Dallas's, but I think Dallas is playing a bit better at the moment, so we'll see how that goes. Something to monitor. Then we got the Monday night games, which there were 2 of for some reason. In Green Bay at the Giants. I expected Green Bay to take care of business here. They've been playing pretty good. But my guy, Tommy DeVito, the Saint of New Jersey, background character from The Sopranos, gets it done, wins the game outright. Green Bay gives Seattle a little bit of help to potentially make the playoffs. That was a great moment for Seahawks Nation, fortunately, but I was on the wrong side of it. Then we had Tennessee at Miami. I thought this was a fairly safe game. Miami was nearly favorite by 2 touchdowns, and they would lose the game by 1 point. I believe Tennessee was down by 14 going into the final 3 minutes of the game. And in similar games, I believe they had won none and lost in the, maybe over 100? I can't remember, but it was a astounding statistic where in similar games, Tennessee was just never going to win. But they managed to pull it out of the fire and win the game outright. Absolutely insane outcome. And there's nothing more to say about that. It's quite funny. I guess that means we are moving on to the Week 15 predictions. We start out with the Chargers in Las Vegas. I don't know. This is a real slap fight. Limp-wristed slap fight, to say the least. Chargers are getting 2.5 points. Vegas is at home. I'm not sure. I believe Easton Stick will be playing quarterback for the Chargers. And Vegas will be... I'm not sure who's even playing quarterback for Vegas. I'm going to take Vegas, though, because the Chargers are just falling apart. They find ways to lose. Vegas is at home. I believe they should no longer be distracted by the orb at this point in the season. That's going to be more of a visiting team problem from now on, I believe. So we're going to go with Vegas, -2.5. Then we have a cool Saturday slate, a bunch of Saturday games, very exciting to me. We have Minnesota at Cincinnati. I'll be taking Cincinnati. I think that, since they got Jake Browning playing quarterback, they've actually looked completely like they've barely missed a step without Joe Burrow. I mean, obviously Joe Burrow is the man, and you'd rather have him playing quarterback, but this Browning guy's getting it done, and Minnesota doesn't really know. It's like Jake Mullen or Josh Dobbs, aka the Last Airbender, aka the Pastronaut. But I just think that there's too much uncertainty for this Minnesota team. I know they're getting points, but they got to go into Cincinnati and get something done. I'm just gonna bet on the home team here. Then we got Pittsburgh at Indy. Pittsburgh kind of got embarrassed last week. They got rid of Matt Canada a few weeks ago, and unfortunately since then Kenny Pickett has been injured, and they have not looked like they were trying to, win games here. I'm going to be taking Indy. Indy's at home. Both these teams are 7-6. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Pittsburgh is going to end the season 9-8 or 8-9. So going up 2 wins here on the road in Indy doesn't feel likely to me. Now we've got Denver and Detroit. Now this is going to be a trends bet for me. I feel like Denver is just rounding into form, and Detroit's wheels are falling off. Detroit is at home, and this might be a get-right spot for them, but I'll just be taking the points. I'll be taking the team that is trending in the right direction. So, we're taking Denver there. We got Tampa Bay at Green Bay, Battle of the Bays, Sunday morning, 10 a.m. We will be taking... This is tough. Green Bay did not look good against the Giants. All these teams are battling for a playoff spot right now. Tampa beat Atlanta last week. I feel like now is time to take the points. When you're not sure who should even win, why not take the points? And we got Atlanta -3.5 at Carolina. I feel like, Atlanta, if they want to have any shred of respectability, will have to beat and cover against Carolina. Carolina, the wheels have fallen off. There's no hope. As everything moves down the stretch, these really bad teams are going to get smoked even harder than usual. And unfortunately, Carolina does not have their first-round pick next year. Sorry to any Carolina fans that might be watching this. Hopefully, you can get it together in the coming years. But I don't think this year is happening. We're taking Atlanta. Now we've got the Saints and the Giants. The Saints beat Carolina last week in fairly comfortable fashion. But like I said, we've got DeVito mania here. We're taking the Giants. The beginning of the year, all I was doing was betting against the Giants. But now, that's right, we're taking the Giants. Can't help it. Now we got Houston at Tennessee. Houston is getting 2.5 points. Tennessee is underdog at home. Or not an underdog. They are the favorite, minus 2.5 points. I'll be taking Tennessee. I feel like coming off concussion is not a great spot for Stroud. I don't know if he's playing or not. I've liked what I've seen out of Levis. They look kind of... This Tennessee team looks scrappy in the way that they usually do around this time of the year. I don't think that they can win the division mathematically anymore. I'm not sure where Jacksonville is. Okay, Jacksonville is 8-5. I mean, they could feasibly do it, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it looks like they could. But Jacksonville would have to lose out, and they would have to win out. But yeah, we're taking Tennessee. Okay, now we got Chicago at Cleveland. We are taking Cleveland. I don't think... I think that their defense will smother Mr. Fields. I believe that Joe Flacco is going to throw long bombs that delight the NFL public, bringing them back to simpler times. Yeah, it's just like, you know, it's going to be a Christmas miracle for the Flacco family. We're taking Cleveland. And we got New York Jets plus 9.5 at Miami minus 9.5. This is a tough line for me because I feel like the Jets are, you know, a team that you might have to take seriously a little bit, but I won't be. I'll be taking Miami. This is... What am I talking about? The Jets won last week. They're not going to win again. That's just crazy. Now I have Kansas City at New England. New England's getting 9.5. Now, last week excluded, New England is holding a lot of teams to like 10 points and under. If that's the case, we have to take New England. Seems crazy, seems counterintuitive, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to take 9.5 points here. Yeah, and that's the last of the morning games. Now we got some afternoon games here. We're starting with Washington getting 6.5 against the Rams. Rams being a 6.5 point favorite feels a bit rich to me. Hard to say though. They are absolutely battling. They're trying to make the playoffs. I think they have an outside chance at the moment, but things aren't going to be easy for them. I think we're going to take the points here. We're going to take the points. That line seems a bit juicy. I think my guy Sam Howell is going to be chucking up bombs. We'll see how it goes. Now here's an interesting line. We got San Francisco minus 13.5 versus Arizona plus 13.5. Arizona's at home. Home dogs getting almost 2 touchdowns. The San Francisco team is absolutely smoking people. But for whatever reason, I think that our guy Kyler's going to dance around and, make it tough for him. No, what am I talking about? We're taking San Francisco. I hate myself. Why do I do this? We're taking San Francisco. They're smoking everybody. Arizona's terrible. San Francisco has as many wins as Arizona has losses. Generally speaking, I like to take large point spreads, especially in these divisional games. But I just can't see a world where San Francisco is not bullying them on both sides of the ball. I could be wrong, but I'll accept it if I'm not. All right, then we have Dallas getting 2.5 points at Buffalo. To me, Dallas getting points, take it. I don't trust this Buffalo team enough. I think this Dallas team is as good as just about anybody. I like the points. We're taking the points. Then we have Sunday Night Football, Baltimore playing Jacksonville. Jacksonville is getting 3.5 points at home. I am taking Baltimore. Seems simple to me. I don't know. I've not been liking what I've been seeing out of Jacksonville, especially their secondary. I feel like you can move the ball on them, and if Baltimore can move the ball on you, you're toast. Yeah, I would have needed a few more points to take Jacksonville. And then we have Philly at Seattle. Seattle 3.5 point underdogs at home. Now this one's a little bit tough to me. Philadelphia has been a little bit all over the place lately. They've lost their last couple games. That being said, Seattle is the weakest opponent they've faced in 3 weeks. This might be Philly's get right game, or this might be a scenario for Pete Carroll to pull out the razzle dazzle, get back to 500. You know, I think a lot of it comes down to whether Drew Lock or Geno Smith is playing, and I don't know if they've announced that as of yet, and they don't have to till Monday. So that being said, with the current news, I'll be taking Philadelphia -3.5, partially because I believe it, partially because it's an emotional hedge. Yeah, so let's go. We're gonna go put 48 in this tiebreaker here, and then we're gonna decide our best bets of the week. We are going to take. All right, sorry. I need to organize my thoughts for a moment. We're going to be taking Baltimore over Jacksonville. We're going to be taking Dallas. We're going to be taking San Francisco. We're taking Tennessee. And we are taking Cleveland. And now my lock of the week. My lock of the week is that San Francisco beats Arizona. And yeah, that's been everything with regards to the Hot Action Podcast this week. If you're still watching, thank you. Please press like. Please subscribe if you've liked what you've seen. Sound off in the comments. Tell me what you think I got right. Tell me what you think I'm doing way wrong. Tell me what I could do to improve this podcast. And, if you've been watching all year, I just want to say a big thank you. And, yeah, see you next week. Peace out. This has been Hot Action Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kerr.